Our speaker today is one of our own, Katherine Cassidy. And she will talk about curiosity and learning and information. Alvin Toffler, author. The illiterate are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Katherine Cassidy is Lois Williams' daughter. She's been a lifelong Unitarian. She lived in Down East Maine for many years. We discovered in talking to each other that since I went to undergraduate school in Maine, that we had both been to Campobello Island, where FDR had his summer home. There wasn't much there. I didn't see the complex or anything, but I did drive past it. So we had both been there. And she's been here about 3 years to the area and comes to church when she can. When she's not, she's usually in Africa with the USAID program, Farmer to Farmer, teaching African women business practices. And so she will talk today on what I learned from the UUA General Assembly. But she's going to right now give a reading.
So I found this morning's first reading from the writer E.N. Hill on UUA's website. It was added there on September 12th. He writes, or she writes, we don't know. In this fall season of 2024, we are at a crossroads in history, a moment in time when democracy is not just a word or a system of government, but a living, breathing promise, a covenant we make with one another. This promise of democracy is one of collective power and shared responsibility. Many understand that this covenantal promise is not without its challenges. Democracy asks us to engage in issues, to participate in bringing about change, and to care deeply about one another. It is cultivated in the small, consistent actions, in the conversations we have, the ways we listen to and learn from one another, as well as the votes we cast. It demands that we see beyond ourselves, recognizing the dignity of every person and honoring the rich diversity of our lives. In the words of Vice President Kamala Harris, democracy, our democracy, is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it, to guard it, and to never take it for granted. We, the people, have the power. You have the power. And when we vote, we expand the power, the possibility, and the promise of democracy. It is clear that at the heart of this democracy is the promise of the people, our hopes and our dreams. We are the democracy and the stewards of this promise, the practitioners of this sacred work. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe democracy is more than a political system. It is a shared journey, a collective responsibility, and a profound act of faith in one another. May we walk this path with grace, with purpose, and with phenomenal commitment to the common good. Today, Sunday, September 22nd, is the first day of fall. It's exactly halfway between the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Today, September 22nd, is also exactly 100 days until December 31st, until the end of 2024. Today, my challenge to you is become a better, more connected Unitarian Universalist. It's very possible to get started to become a more connected UU before we're off and running in 2025. For myself already in 2024, I have taken steps to make this happen. I didn't plan this, but I look forward to turning 65 in 3 weeks. But as I look forward to turning 65 in 3 weeks, my instincts to become a better, more connected UU have just naturally accelerated. This is because I want to connect more than ever before with other UUs, locally, nationally, globally. I want to know that the people I engage with most regularly, either in person or online, share and live my UU values. Toward that, in June, I was one of our fellowship's 2 online representatives for the all-virtual UU Association's 2024 General Assembly. Janet Hemming was the other. And that is the reason for my service today, called UU is for all of us, what I learned from the UUA General Assembly. If you remember, about a year ago, we had a similar service presented by Janet and Susan Mosley, who were UUFR's attendees for the 2023 General Assembly. Rather than travel to the annual meeting in Pittsburgh, they also attended virtually online. So it's a reasonable expectation for those who attend at UUFR's expense. I was reimbursed for $180, the early bird price to register, to report back at a UUFR service. To best express what happened on a personal level, as a result of taking part in General Assembly, I can say this. Really and truly, I am only now starting my UU journey. I am a lifelong UU, but living as an involved, more aware, more connected UU feels more urgent for me today than ever previously. Agenda-wise, the highlight of the 2024 meeting in June, for which 3,400 people registered to attend online, was the vote on the new language to replace Article 2. This was the most anticipated and most divisive item on the agenda. The result was that 3/4 of the delegates, myself included, voted to leave behind the 7 principles and shift to the new language centering around love. My reason for my vote was this. The 7 principles were determined 40 years ago. We can still love them. We can still live them as UUs. They are still part of the UU legacy. But the expanded new version, I felt, better reflect today's UU norms and culture. 40 years ago, we can reflect. Our society was decidedly less open to conversations about, for example, climate change, mental health, social justice, same-sex marriage, and LGBTQ issues. Today, UU is the faith that recognizes and embraces all these values and more. I was away on August 8th for UUFR's town meeting when the General Assembly outcomes were discussed here. But based on what Eddie Correa wrote in the September issue of Christie's Chalice newsletter, I'm pleased to see that UUFR members will vote in December to continue including, or not, the 7 principles in our Sunday bulletins. They are indeed lovely words to live by. Now, more about my General Assembly experience. It was 4 days of online presentations, very tedious. And both Janet and Susan had warned me about this. But I said yes anyway. Wow. It was entirely sit, listen, watch, and learn for hours on end, staying entirely.
It's all right. We'll tend to it later.
It's all right.
Go.
We'll tend to it later.
I don't want to interrupt your talk.
No getting outside. Not the best way to spend a weekend on the northern neck in June. But I did because I'm intensely interested in what it means to be an involved Unitarian Universalist today, locally, nationally, and globally. What it could mean for me in the near future, because I am part of a UU trend, UUs growing older. This is a time of choice for me, for all of us, really. Step up our service as UUs, or ease off, or even turn away. One of my takeaways from participating in General Assembly is choosing to be ever more involved in the connected community of the UU faith. Service for what? For whom? And where and how and why? These are our choices. Lately, we've been hearing about service as a spiritual practice. Thank you, Diane. Right here in our sanctuary, as part of our Sunday times together. How help is needed to keep our congregation compelling. Sort of a call for who can do what, and also what is needed people-wise to sustain UUFR. Whenever I return to Africa for my training assignments with farmers' cooperatives, I tell my audiences these words, spoken by Teddy Roosevelt 100 years ago, in 1916, when America was largely agrarian. Do what you can with what you've got where you are. The farmers in Africa take these words to heart. It allows them to appreciate their circumstances more. It invites them to reframe their situations and move forward with positive attitudes and actions. So back to choices for UUs. Let me expand upon some of them that I've personally experienced. I will borrow from that great bumper sticker, think globally, act locally. First, internationally. I very nearly traveled earlier this month to Romania, where I plan to attend a gathering of 150 UU women worldwide. Transylvania is the birthplace of the Unitarian faith in the 1500s, rejecting the doctrine of the Trinity. The Edict of Torda in 1568 proclaimed religious freedom as a remarkable move toward religious tolerance unparalleled in Europe at the time. This gathering was for ICUUW, acronym for International Convocation of Unitarian Universalist Women. This nonprofit started 15 years ago, and I include the website within the bulletin's notes. It's easy to access and feel connected to a much wider understanding of why we choose the UU life and values. The group does hour-long Zooms twice a month at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays. I attend as often as I can. But I didn't make my trip to Romania after all. I chose to stay home instead, to care for Lois. I wanted to join the 150 UU ladies desperately in Romania, but I knew that Mom needed me more here. Besides, I know that there will be many more international trips in my future. On a national level, the UU Association is the mothership, the Boston-based nonprofit that connects UUs across America. People of all ages, of many backgrounds, and many beliefs. The homepage for the UUA website, also noted in this bulletin, carries these words: live your values aloud, not alone. Our open-minded, open-hearted spiritual communities help people live lives of justice, love, learning, and hope. Now, if that is the conversation starter for introducing both UUs and non-UUs to the UUA website, the very best resource made just for us, why would anyone not want to attend one of UUA's General Assemblies? Especially if such an experience promises to connect you with more people who share your values. You have that chance to attend in person in Baltimore in merely 9 months. The 2025 GA dates are June 18th through 22nd. Participants worship, witness, learn, connect, and make policy for the association through democratic process. I presume that UUFR will be represented again with 2 voting delegates. But more than 2 people from UUFR can attend. GA is open to anyone. Count me in, because I'm going. I don't need to be one of UUFR's voting delegates again. I hope that someone else, maybe someone sitting in this room listening today, will be inspired to travel there and appreciate more than 3,000 UUs all gathering in the same place. Come along with me. We can carpool and share lodging to reduce costs. That's my invitation to you. To ease the cost of registration, which starts with early bird rates and then escalates, there are volunteer opportunities with sign-ups starting in December. You can have your full registration waived. Ruth, you're not supposed to look there? You can have your registration waived in return for about 20 hours of commitment. And this happens either on-site during the meeting or off-site virtually, both in advance and as follow-up. Both the planning and execution of the UUA General Assembly is meticulous. Please think about this. Even closer to home, there are chances for UU service as a spiritual practice through the Tidewater cluster, a grouping of 7 UU congregations within our part of Virginia. Besides UUFR, there are UU churches in Fredericksburg, Glen Allen, Richmond, Williamsburg, Newport News, and Virginia Beach. Every April, UUs from these 7 places are invited to a day for connecting and learning. The host congregation rotates, and volunteers from the host church do much of the organizing. We are the smallest of the 7 UUs. I'm now in my 3rd year of serving as UUFR's representative to the Tidewater cluster. So this is my 3rd year of hearing we're too small to be a host. meaning we don't have the space to host 75 people and cars, as Newport News did 5 months ago. And we also don't have the volunteer wherewithal to coordinate for more than 100 participants, as Virginia Beach did in 2023. That said, there are other ways that UUFR can become better connected to the Tidewater cluster energy. Because I can't stay and attend today's program committee meeting, I have to get Lois back to RWC. I've suggested this for the agenda, that we consider inviting each of the 6 other Tidewater cluster pastors to speak at UUFR in 2025. This could also become something bigger, that all of the cluster UU pastors accept invitations to speak at all of the region's UUs in 2025. As for the rest of us, we can participate in the Tidewater cluster, learning by connecting, by attending the actual day of the gathering. Next April, Glen Allen is the host. For the last 2 years, only Janet and myself attended as listeners, and Belinda represented UUFR in 2023 to lead a well-received sound baths workshop. I know there's talent enough within our UUFR ranks for others to step into leading a workshop or presenting a talk or volunteering otherwise to help on the day. Glen Allen is only 1 hour, 20 minutes from us, according to Google Maps. As for service as a spiritual practice on an even more local level, I give a shout out this morning to Selene and Marge and everyone else who joined her yesterday, being out in the larger community, representing UUFR as organizers of the annual yoga retreat breakfast in Kilmarnock. When was the last time you gave thought to what can I do in the name of UUFR? Let me leave you with a PowerPoint that I made in June 2022 when Susan Mosley asked me to present something to UUFR's Board of Directors. Jeff, I hope this works. I think I got it. Except I forgot. There. Okay. So I'm going to do this quickly. Can we look now?
Yeah.
You can look now. I'm going to read it for those who can't more easily follow. So this is 2.5 years old. This is how I was thinking 2.5 years ago. I think what Susan said to me that day over avocado toast at the local was actually this. Can you imagine, Susan? You are so much fun to be around. I wish you could be part of our board retreat on June 20th. Right? Got that? So I said yes. Okay. Somehow that showed up on the retreat agenda as publicity by Katherine. So every week there's church notes in the rep record. We have 60 churches within Lancaster County alone. And I suggested, is this what UUs mean with publicity? We can also ask, how do we bring others closer toward us as a result of this so-called publicity? And my snarky response, and I don't know why I chose that picture, but don't you think that other UU newcomers to the area will seek us out as like-minded folks anyway? Publicity. Let's try this instead. What UUFR really wants and needs is the same exact thing that every person living in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula wants and needs in his or her life. It's love. And having love in your life means you're considered fun to be around. You help others feel good about their own lives. In short, you lift people up. You are adored. You are someone's sanctuary. You know you have a purpose, and you are doing good. UUFR's got all that. UUFR offers up community love. In addition to having and offering love and wanting publicity, UUFR should also consider taking ownership of UUFR numbers that can grow. For example, here are ways we can measure UUFR's growth, quarter by quarter, or 1 year to the next, or even month to month. Because what can be measured can be improved. This is from the OKR theory, objectives and key results. Note, this stuff is even better than ordinary publicity. I promise. For example, if we want more members, then we can make a regular ask to our current members to bring a friend or two every third Sunday when Susan speaks. For example, if we want to increase offerings, checks, and pledges, then we can use the first Sunday to share a modest summary of both spending notes and spending needs based on incomes and expenses from the previous month. It could be either in the bulletin or after welcoming words. For example, if we want to increase our volunteerism, one member or many at a time, then we keep a running list, updated and posted monthly, of who did what on behalf of UUFR. It's a reminder that a few of us are doing most of the work. And this is directed at the board of directors. This is a way your own efforts can be counted and recognized by all who stop to read this list. Seriously, UUFR seems very in sync with how other UU churches present themselves in their communities and online. So let's see how other UU churches talk about themselves. In Memphis, the First Unitarian Church, called the Church of the River, who are we? We're a diverse, progressive, and caring congregation. We care about social justice, the environment, and each other. If you're looking for a community of like-minded people to help you grow your soul, raise compassionate children, and live a fuller life, we invite you to join us. The the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lexington, Kentucky. 7 days a week, UUs live their faith by doing. Whether in community with others or as an individual, we know that active, tangible expressions of love, justice, and peace are what make a difference. We are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, and spirituality, but we unite in our shared values. We have radical roots and a history as self-motivated spiritual people. We think for ourselves and recognize that life experiences influence our beliefs more than anything. The Green Bay Area Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Wisconsin. Justice is at the core of our faith. Our congregation is called to make a positive difference in our wider communities. We work to serve, to raise awareness, and to support and partner with people who face injustice. We advocate, organize, and act for justice to live out the values of our faith. Our work for a better world calls us to unexpected places as we harness love's power to stop oppression. From grassroots community in protest marches, prayer vigils, and press conferences, in homeless shelters and in prisons, Unitarian Universalists put our faith into action. What UUFR folks say about ourselves. As the Rappahannock River flows into the Chesapeake Bay, it draws strength and beauty from many sources. So too, our UU Fellowship of the Rappahannock draws on the strength of its members to offer a community of caring, celebration for our joys, and refuge in time of need, space to reflect on religious journeys, and a forum for exchange of ideas. And what that means. It means that for next year's Blessing of the Animals celebration, UUFR can host a pet fair on its lawn, even a pet parade into Whitestone on the Saturday before. What that means. It means that UUFR can take on organizing responsibilities for a new creative event with a dozen local speakers called TEDx Lancaster County. We plan it for 6 to 8 months and it happens. What that means, it means that UUFR has half of one of the Northern Neck's most dynamic couples in Susan and Jim Mosley. So let's get them before they move away on the Lancaster Community Library's speaker schedule for what it's like to be married to local clergy. What that means. It means that UUFR could engage with a new mental health initiative addressing health disparity needs of those living the Northern Neck's rural, isolated, low-income, elderly demographics. Northern Neck Health, a 501c3 in Warsaw, has recognized not everyone here has a house and boat on the water. What that means. It means that for the local Juneteenth celebration in 2023, UUFR can be present with not just a drum circle, but also with a table with welcoming greeters and UU materials. What that means. It means UUFR provides our greater community with place, space, grace, and faces. What that means. I spell out publicity here. It means that UUFR already has all the publicity and dynamicism, dynamic, whatever, that we wish for. I think there's a typo. Pride, understanding big visions, long-standing impacts, community, initiatives, traditions, youth. Well, some. Done. Thanks for your time today.
I think that a lot of people have been damaged by churches. And the more we can stay away from the terminology of church and religion, the better off we are. Most people in our country now identify as spiritual, but not religious. So I love it that we have fellowship rather than a church. And I know it's a lot harder to say, but and I still default to church sometimes. But I think that when we make that extra effort to use more encompassing and welcoming tech terminology to describe ourselves, people are more open to hearing about what we do and what we believe in. So, but I'm so happy to have discovered this place. Otherwise, this is a very lonely place for progressive people. And I think connection, love and connection are what people are looking for. So ways that we can help people connect with each other. Thanks.
That expansive talk. It was lovely to hear about UUA General Assembly, but I love the way that you brought it back home to us and how we can get involved. And we certainly have, with Diana's help, begun to do an outreach for service as a spiritual practice, and more people are stepping up. But I kind of look at it, the Finance Committee is going to meet in October and they're going to set up a budget. And that's going to carry us financially, and we're always going to struggle for more. And we try to figure out how we can balance that budget. We haven't really talked about a budget for volunteers, because this community, this fellowship relies not only on money, but a whole lot on volunteers. If we had to pay for the work that the volunteers did, we would never be able to keep our doors open. And I feel like there's a bit of a malaise right now. Our volunteers that we have had are wearing out. And I mean, why not? The amount of work that one person does, it could be shared among many. And so we're trying to approach it as just one bite at a time. You don't have to join a committee. You can do one thing. Do we have committees? Do we have teams? I mean, we're having a whole lot of conversations, and we're creating we're calling it a leadership development team, but we're going to rename that to rethink the whole way that we operate with volunteerism in this community. And I would certainly invite anybody that's interested to let me or Diana know. I know, Diana, you're not a co-chair, but you're in it. I'm using your name anyway. Let us know, because we are trying to bring together a group of thinkers that can help us work our way out of the malaise and into the excitement that you've talked about. So thank you very much for that.
So I've had so many coincidences lately that is not seeming like coincidences, but on Wednesday, I was with a group of a nonprofit that I do work for, and we had a consultation on how to make ourselves better and bigger and more volunteers and all that. One thing that we could use here at UUFR is similar to something you said, is where we can talk about what happened this month or this year. So thanks to our volunteers, we were able to, if we went and had a day that we helped at the food bank, or we did something in the schools that we thanks to you, think about what AWL does every month. Thanks to your contributions, we spayed all these dogs and fed all these dogs, and we adopted all these cats. We could do something to that, and that would encourage more volunteerism because people see it's recognized.
Catherine, thank you. I had an odd thought that occurred to me in the middle of this. I guess it's just a comment, but I have gone to Unitarian churches in Charlottesville and here, and I searched them out, whether I'm going to attend or not. I just want to know that that open-mindedness is within the community. We started coming here infrequently in the beginning 7 years ago, and just on and off. And then about 3 years or so ago, we started attending fairly regularly and became members. That said, I have never identified as a Unitarian. When people say, what faith, what religion, what church, what this, I mean, I can easily say UUFR, but I've never considered myself a Unitarian. I came here because I clearly identified most closely with those 7 principles and said, this is the place. But I don't go saying, well, I'm a Unitarian or, Baptist or this. And I just thought, well, that's kind of weird. I mean, is there a transition from member to, okay, I am a Unitarian? What does that? Where's that flip? I mean, I participate, I volunteer, like, I don't know. Am I a Unitarian? I mean, I'm fine with that, but I've just never thought about it.
What a great question, Sue, because I was sitting here thinking and imagining, Catherine, publicity in which an article said, do you want to belong to an organization where you're comfortable as an atheist? Do you want to belong to an organization where you're comfortable spiritually? Do you want to, well, and to have it be a back and forth? Are you spiritual and fear being in an organization where nobody else is spiritual? And I think when Tom and I joined UU, and when was that? In the early 1970s, about well, Peter was a baby. Yeah, so well, 71, 72, 72 maybe. Every church that UU church that we went to, the process was you would discover you were Unitarian, and people would go like, oh, look, you came here and you realized you were a Unitarian. So I think that was a very standard way for UU religious organizations, fellowships, and churches to operate, where you would just read the principles, but people would say that. I mean, they said that in sermons, they said that in publicity. It's sort of like, well, you've been here and you discovered you're a Unitarian Universalist. Talk to Catherine after.
Well, what occurred to me when I was listening to Sue talk was, without being a proselyte or someone who is self-aggrandizing, you can say things to people like, well, as a Unitarian Universalist, this is my thought on that issue. So my thought was more, just be out there.
Okay. Thank you for your talk, Catherine. Thank you for all your comments. If you have any more, you can talk to Catherine briefly after.